Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Road to 1000 Dueling Book Rating. Today we are going to be playing against Orcust, and there's a couple other matches. So expect a deck profile of this Paleo Frog list or whatever on Sunday or Monday, because today, if I upload this on the Saturday, I will be attending regionals and I will be playing this deck at the regionals. So anyways, we're starting this first off. First one we're playing against is Orcust, like I said earlier, I believe. I'm not sure, actually. We go ahead and normal summon a Swap Frog, which gets hit with Ash. We add it back to our hand. It pretty much just ate the hand trap because we didn't have anything else in our hand to follow up. So we're going to go ahead and set 4 back row and pass our turn back to him. Or over to him, I guess. He goes ahead and activates Allure of Darkness. I think I activate Judgment here. Or no, I don't. Sorry, I didn't activate Judgment here. And he banishes the skeleton from his hand. He activates Trade-In, discarding Bigfoot to draw 2. I activate Judgment on that because I don't want him to draw 2 more cards. At this point, he has 3 cards in hand, so it's kind of like rough for him. He does have a Chalice, and I think I Storm Duster the back row here just to be safe. We draw for turn, we draw into a Dynamistress. We can normal summon Swap Frog. I forget to use the effect here because I just forgot. And then we set the Dynamistress and pass our turn back to him. We do have 2 copies of Crackdown set as well as a Dynamistress, which is pretty good. He activates the Gizmek Orochi, banishing 8s, and we go ahead and crack down that in the battle phase. Just give it to me. And then we here normal summon the Swap Frog, sending the Ronin. Finally, I actually get the effect right. I attack for 1000 with Swap Frog, bounce back to hand, and pass my turn to him. Then he goes ahead and instant fusions into Thousand Eyes Restrict. And he, I believe here I actually, before on summon a Thousand Eyes Restrict, I actually go with the effect of Dynamistress to banish the Thousand Eyes, discarding the Ash from my hand. Because at this point, the Ash does nothing. At this point, I know I'm playing against Orcust, but like I just know he's bricked really hard. We normal summon Swap Frog again, go into Swap Frog, like send the Swap Frog, summon back Ronin, and summon the Toad, which we can attack for 2200. And at this point, we pretty much have the game sealed because we have a Trap Trick as well as a Crackdown. So like we're really stacked at this point. He mind controls targets our Toad. I negate it, tributing the Dupe Frog. And at this point, he just goes for a Thunderbird, and I say that's okay. If he hits the Crackdown, it's fine. I think it kind of sucks, but we can crack down it again, so it's okay. He summons the Thunderbird, actually discarding the Nightmare, which is probably the better play in this case because now he can use the Nightmare effect, targeting the Thunderbird, and he gets to send a Wand, summoning back the Orcust Nightmare. Or sorry, the Skeleton actually is what he decides to summon. He normal summons Jet Synchron and links them both off into a Galatea, which I crack down, take that, obviously. And I link it up to my Toad so I can't be destroyed by battle. As well as he enters battle phase, activate Trap Trick, sending Canadia, flip it face down, and he scoops up the game. I just had everything that game, so it was just really unfortunate for him. Next game, I think he opts for us to go first, which is really interesting, and he draws the red Reboot and Twisters. Very interesting. So we go for a Swap Frog, send Ronin, Toad, and bounce it back to hand, and we set 4 back row. Then he draws for turn, activates Desires, and he draws 2. And then I think he Twisters, no, he Allures, draws 2 more. Then he Twisters me, discarding the Thunderbird, so he can hit 3 back row, which is really strong. I chain the Scapegoats here because he targets it. And then he Thunderbirds and hits our last back row, which is not Waking the Dragon. I should have picked a different zone because people like to hit the middle zones when they activate Twin Twisters, but I just wasn't thinking. And Waking the Dragon probably would have done more at this point, but actually, I wouldn't even be able to summon off of it because of Scapegoat, which is actually funny and kind of ironic. So he reveals Jackalope. I discard the Maju out of his hand. He discards it, draws into Thunderbird, which he activates as well. I hit the World Wand out of his hand, and he draws into Sukanoko, drawing all the dangers, of course. I hit the Scrap Golem out of his hand, summoning Sukanoko. He draws into a instant fusion, paying 1000. for a restrict and takes one of my goats and links off into Curious. Then at this point, he's going to use Curious Effect. And at this point, I'm kind of screwed because I just don't have a lot. We're going to actually just fast forward plays because it's pretty easy at this point. He goes for Appaloosa, and then he goes for Gizmek Orochi, and the wand summons back the skeleton. He's going to kill on my tokens, and he's got an Appaloosa with 3 negates. Links off into Galatea, which he can set Orchestrated Return. Make Dingirsu, attach, and then you know the drill at that point. I activate Swap Frog, and he Appaloosa negates it, bringing it down to 800 attack. So I use the Swap Frog to attack over, which is pretty cool. Then we set a Trap Trick and pass our turn back to him. He activates a Pot of Desires, banishing 10 to draw 2. Then he looks like he uses Babel Effect, discarding the Gruffer. Avarice, of course, shuffle back 5. Pretty good, draw 2. And then at this point, he has a Scrap Recycler, send the Recycler, Bigfoot, which we hit the Babel out of his hand. He draws, makes Scrap Wyvern. I think it would have been the right play for me to actually like make Trap Trick and then send it with send this with like Compulse or something, or banish it with Dino or something like that. I think that would have been the right play, but I just didn't do it for some reason. In the future, I will definitely do something like that. He Phoenixes target my Waking the Dragon, which I get to summon something off of it, but he actually tops deck into Ash off of Phoenix, so it negates it already, so it's just kind of dumb at that point, but, you know. He links everything off into a Zero-Boros, which has like 8,600 attack or something like that due to all the 28 banished cards that he has, so obviously we're going to scoop up the game. Going into game number 3. I believe that I go first, and I set 3 back row, and he goes ahead with a Pot of Desires, and then he goes on a battle phase and activates evenly, which we Judgment that, of course. Then he uses Twisters, targeting the rest of the back row, and then at this point he searches for a Thunderbird, discards the Thunderbird off a trade-in, and hits my last Dupe Frog, of course. So, you know, something like that. I believe Dupe Frog misses timing, but he ashes it. It might miss timing here, but I'm not exactly sure. Oh wait, no, it doesn't because of Thunderbird's effect. Yeah, so it actually doesn't miss timing. So I'm correct there. Anyways, so I draw into Canada and pass my turn because I can't do anything. He sets the Maju, and he activates another Desires. Just all the draw cards in this deck. It's absolutely crazy. Use trade-in, Normal's Armageddon Knight, and then he banishes 8 for Gizmek Orochi. Just trying to bait my last back row out with the Phoenix, which is what he does here. And then I use Phantasme's effect to draw 2. And at this point, I believe he just Pot of Avarice, shuffle some cards back, draws 2. And then he can just flip some of the Maju, and this is a lot of damage. This is like 12,000 something damage, something like that. So I'm only at 4,000 life points anyway, so it's well over it, like enough for game. So I didn't have enough, and that's it for our match number 1. So moving on into our match number 2, we were playing against Thunder Dragon. So he has a very bricky hand, and that is very sad. So we set 3 cards and pass it to him. He sets an Impermanence and passes. Of course. So we draw for a turn. We just draw into a Dino. I opt to not set it because I have a Dino in hand. He sets another card, which is Thunder Dragon Fusion. We draw for turn. We draw into a Storm Duster, which we set as well. He activates Gold Sarcophagus here. Banishes the Roar, which we Ash the Roar effect. Then he activates Thunder Dragon Fusion, which you can't do because you can't fuse from hand with this. You can only fuse from your field, grave, and banish zone. Which, he tries to, like, show me, like, he has stuff in hand, but, like, you can't do that because it's not, like, you can't fuse from your hand if you read this card. Like there's nowhere on this that shuffling fusion materials in your deck among your cards on field, grave, and banished cards. Then in end phase, we're gonna Storm Duster the back row. We draw for turn, draw into a strike, and we set it, pass it to him. He activates Allure of Darkness, banishes the duo, and then he summons the Thunder Dragon Matrix and links it off into a Link Karibo. Opts not to use the effect for an odd reason, and we go ahead and use Phantasme to summon to summon itself and draw 2. Put back it, and we get the Swap Frog, which is pretty good off of that. Anyways, he drolls me here for some reason. I don't know, whatever. Thunder Dragon Fusion, which I believe I go ahead and negate with the Judgment. Although I do have like ways to out it. I just think that it wasn't like a super good move or whatever. He could use the Thunder Dragon Fusion here, but I think he just realizes he doesn't want to, or he doesn't have enough resources to continue the game, so he just ends the duel and scoops it up. Game number 2. We draw into Scapegoat, which is pretty dope. We set Dupe Frog as well as the 4 back row, pass it to him. He draws like Solar, which I believe we just strike it. And then he allures, which we Judgment. And at this point, he just sets 1 and passes. So yeah, end phase I activate Goats, and at this point it's pretty good because I can draw Ash for I drew Ash for turn. I link off into Spider, Link Karibo. I make Phoenix, discarding the Ash in my hand to pop the back row. And then I go ahead and use for Cerberus, and I attack for 3,500. I could go for a sword here for 6,000 damage, or 6,100 rather, but it just wasn't worth it because I think it's just better for me to go for an Avermax, I believe. So I just want to like control the game. I have 2 Compulse set, a Dupe Frog, and an Avermax. At this point, like it's pretty tough for him to do anything. He Thunder Dragon Fusions for Danko Seka, and he goes ahead and normal summons it. But it's just like whatever, because like I don't care if my compulses are locked down. There's no way he's gonna get over an Avermax because I'm just gonna Avermax attack over it anyways. So that's it for game number 2. quick game number 2. We're moving on into our last and final match. We are playing against Stun. So he draws a very interesting hand here, but we go ahead and I believe we start the duel off. So we set Trap Trick, Dino, Compulse, and we leave the Dino in our hands so we can discard it off of the Dino Mistress we have set. Anyways, he activates Jowgen, goes into battle phase. I would just banish it in the end phase anyways, but I realized like it doesn't matter like if I take the 200 damage here or not, it's just whatever. So I just Dino Mistress it anyways. He keeps arguing with me saying it's not cost or whatever, but it doesn't matter in this case because he doesn't have anything to like negate it, but it's whatever. So it gets banished. He sets a back row, which is Bribe, which we go ahead and activate Trap Trick in the end phase, summoning Dino Mistress, and then we set an Olenoides, and we use Olenoides on the back row, chain our Dino Mistress, and then during my turn, we can go ahead and attack for 2,400, and then overlay for Toad. And we have a Judgment set as well as another one in our hand, so at this point, we're pretty much set. He goes to his turn, stamina phase, we go for Toad. He activates Extravagance, which we go ahead and Judgment that. He sets a face down Fossil Dyna. We go for a Toad, and then at this point, I think it's better for me to Compulse here, but I think I ended up going for like a Security Dragon play. But we're using the normal like Swap Frog plays. We like, you know, Toad, summon, swap bounce to act to hand, normal it, and then like keep sending Swap Frogs to, or like Frogs to grave. And then we can normal our Dupe Frog off of Swap Frog's effect anyways. Link everything off into a Cerberus. Then use Security Dragon's effect to bounce it back to our hand, and we can summon back. And at this point, I don't know if it's better to go for, we don't have like any resources in grave, but I do realize that I can go into an Avermax and also go into a Toad, and I can attack for 5,200. And I realize his life points are at 5,600, so he does take both life points, sorry, both damages. And then I use the Compulse targeting my own Avermax to special back the Dino from the grave to attack for the remaining 1,200. So at that point, that's just game. So moving on into match number 2, he sides in a copy of Royal Decree, which actually destroys my deck. So he sets the Fossil Dyna and the Royal Decree as well as the Mirror Force. And at this point, like, I'm trying this new tech of Duality to search. I add the Evenly Matched, which I believe he keeps, or no, he just chains the Royal Decree, that's right. And then at this point, I don't have an out to it. So at this point, it's just kind of like me trying to draw Scapegoat pretty much to out it, which I can't do anyways. So he's just going to keep doing the 2,800 damage, it looks like. So, like, I can, like... And then he had, like, the Banisher, and I normal summon Swap Frog and realized, like, hey, I can't do that because... or I use the effect, but the Ronin gets banished. But yeah, anyways... We go into our game number 3. He doesn't get the Royal Decree this time, but my hand's a little awkward. I use Swap Frog effect to send the Ronin, and I set 4 back row and pass it to him. This Unending Nightmare is to counter the Royal Decree here. He goes for an Extravagance. He draws Pankratops and stuff like that. Pankratops, Jurighetto, I don't know. It's really interesting. He goes ahead, sets Bribe, Mirror Force, and Storming Mirror Force. I think, obviously I didn't see the Mirror Force play coming, but I did go for a Toad. And I attack with Toad, and then he activates Mirror Force, which obviously I'm going to negate. And he doesn't realize the effect of Toad sets Mirror Force, so he argues with me about it for a minute. And then Toad's effect adds the Swap Frog back to the hand. And then pass it back to him. He normal summons a Banisher of the Light, which is whatever. Because we can just, like, normal summon Swap Frog. Or we could just use Dynamis just like I do in this case. Which banishes the impermanence out of my hand, actually. And it doesn't discard his cost as well, so, yeah. Discards Banisher, we send the Dupe Frog off the Swap Frog effect. Special it back and link, or exceeds into a Toad. This is probably a bad play because we're playing in a Storming Mirror Force. We should have just attacked with a Swap Frog. But, whatever. So he Stormings my Toad, I Toad add back the Swap Frog, and I set the Storming to my field, which at this point I realize kind of sucks because I basically, like, clogged my back row, but it's fine, I think, for now. He normals Jowgen, doesn't attack because I have the Mirror Forces. I normal the Swap Frog, and I believe I use the effect here to send another Ronin. I try to use Unending Nightmare summoning the Dino, but then I realized, like, I actually can't do that because of Jowgen's effect, so I correct it here in a sec. Swap Frog's effect, sorry, not effect. He attacks into Jowgen. He's not responding here for a minute. I don't know why. He takes, like, 3 or 4 minutes to, like, destroy his monster or something. So 800 damage is dealt, passes back to him. He special summons a Pankratops, which I hit him with a Strike. And it destroys it. Goes into a battle phase and uses Jurighetto to summon itself. He gains 1,000 life, and it tries to attack into Swap Frog. So I actually use Mirror Force here. So he doesn't... Okay, so at this point there were no judges online, but I'll tell you in a sec once we get to the ruling. So he Dark Bribes my Mirror Force, which I forget to draw for, but I do it here in a second. Then after resolution, I activate Trap Trick. And he says I can't do that because the attack has already gone through, and that doesn't make sense because you can still activate cards. It just, like, well, he says that I can activate Enchain to Dark Bribe, and I say that's not what I'm doing. And he argues with me about it for a minute. I was going to call a judge, but I just figure, like, whatever, like, he's just being dumb. I, like, have advantage over him anyways, and there's no point in me waiting 2 hours for a judge because there's none online right now. So I just say, fine, whatever. I'll take the damage. I don't care, but, like, this sucks. Like, you're actually, like, you just need to learn how to play the game. So I set the Dynamistus, and I finally just said, fine, whatever. He said, try cheating to another player. Like, wow, okay. Like, I'm not cheating. It's just how the game works. But anyways, Dynamis just banishes his Jurighetto. And then he normals Jowgen and activates Moon Mirror Shield. I should have just Unending Nightmared this. I don't know why I didn't. I draw a Dupe Frog, and I set a Storm Duster as well as Trap Trick. He Chop Decks into Royal Decree, which is fine, because now here he normals the Fossil Dino. So at this point, I need 2 ways to out his board, because I need to out both of these monsters for me to make a Toad and stuff. But I Storm Duster in end phase here, which doesn't matter anyways, because... like, it wouldn't have mattered if I paid the 1,000 to destroy it anyways, but he opts to put it on the top of his deck, and then we go for... Oh, I accidentally misclick and send it to grave instead of setting it to my field. Anyways, he top decks into Moon Mirror Shield, activates it again, targeting his Jowgen. It's fine. Draws for turn. I draw into an impermanence and set my turn. He top decks into another Moon Mirror Shield, and I believe he switches to Dragon to attack to try to attack over the Dupe Frog. I don't know why, but whatever. Because we could use the Storming here to like bounce it back to hand, but I just Unending Nightmare target the Moon Mirror Shield, so he's forced to like put it back on top of his deck or something. He's forced to do something with it, so he pays 500 life points to put it back, and then he's gonna take the 18 from Dupe Frog. So yeah, and then he tries to argue me here over Unending Nightmare's effect because he activates Moon Mirror Shield targeting the Jowgen again. And he says I can't do it because it's once per chain, but like that's the point. Like it's not once per turn, it's once per chain. Meaning it's the same thing as Appaloosa, where you can activate it. You can't activate it twice in the same chain, but you can activate it in one chain and then again in the other chain. And you can also activate it at the start of a chain. So it's like it's a quick effect in that sense because it's a trap card, obviously. So, you know, he tries to argue me saying like we're not in a chain, but like it starts its own chain, so like yes you can. It's just like an interesting thing like that. But like I go ahead and I can activate it targeting the Moon Mirror Shield because this is chain 1, this is chain 2 anyways. So it didn't really matter. But he just doesn't understand it for some reason. And so we pop it and he pays 500 life points to return it back to his deck. I don't know why. He should just let it go to the grave. I don't think it's mandatory effect. Anyways, at this point, I have 2 forms of removal since I can trap trick something. So I just bounce us back with Fossil Dyna, or compulse bounce back the Fossil Dyna, imperm the Jowgen. And at this point, I can trap trick and then set or summon the Dynamistress from the deck, or from the grave, set the Olenoides, because it was the only normal trap left in my deck, actually. I would have set something else, but it was the only one left. Then I banish, swap for Ronin, and I overlay all 3 into a Anomalakaris, because at this point, there's no point in me going for Toad, because, like, I think that Anomalakaris on its own could, like, pop the Fossil Dyna. Like, I can't negate this, right? So, like, it's just better for me to have the Anomalakaris. Like, I can negate it, but, like, it's just better for me to go for the Anomalakaris anyways. So I just go ahead and scapegoat on his draw phase so that I play around Fossil Dyna. Anyways, Anomalakaris' effect mills the Pot of Duality, so I don't get it. Then he goes into battle phase, trying to like bait up something with like evenly or something like that, and then I say that's fine. He sets Fossil Dyna, and then I hit his back row, which is Moon Mirror Shield. And then he quits the game, so... At this point, I could, like, Anomalakaris target his card as well. And at this point, I could attack for 2,700. I do have a way to summon the Dupe Frog from the grave, and I can probably go into, like, a Nightmare play or something like that to get more damage on field. But, like, you know, it's whatever at this point. So, yeah, that was it. He was really annoying to play against. I don't know why he was being so rude to me. But, anyways, that's it for this video, actually. It was actually kind of one of a shorter ones, which is okay. I think you guys probably are okay with that too. So in a day or two, do expect to see a Paleo Frog deck profile. And if you guys do enjoy these Road to 1,000 Dueling Book videos, then please go ahead and drop a like. And yeah, I'll see you guys at the deck profile. See you later.